about to have an encounter.
We are the Reverends Ronaldston and Ruth Ann Wiggins,
founders of the World Transformational Centre Ministries, Inc.
Do you desire true peace, physical healing, or long to experience the tangible presence of God?
Join us today as we bring you hope in this edition of Kingdom Encounter.
Come join us in our time of worship.
Oh, Father, we bless your name. Oh, we give your name glory. We magnify your name, God. We've taken this time up to bless you and to declare that you are our God. Nobody like life. Father of life, draw me closer. Lord, my heart is set on you. Let me run the race of time with your life unfolding mine, and let the peace of God let it reign. Oh Holy Spirit, you're my comfort. Come on, strengthen me. Hold my hand up high as I stand upon your truth, bringing glory unto you, and let the peace of God let it reign. Oh Lord, I hunger. Oh Lord, I hunger for more of you. Rise up within me. Let me know your truth. Oh Holy Spirit, saturate my soul, and let the life of God fill me now. Let your healing power bring life and make me whole, and let the peace of God let it reign. Oh Holy Spirit, you're my comfort. Come on, strengthen me. Come on, hold my hand up high as I stand upon your truth, bringing glory unto you, and let the peace of God let it reign. Come on, oh Lord, I hunger. Oh Lord, I hunger. Come on, for more of you. Come on, rise up within me. Let me know your truth. Come on, the Holy Spirit, saturate my soul, and let the life of God fill me now. Let your healing power bring life and make me whole, and let the peace of God let it reign. Lord, I hunger. Oh Lord, I hunger for more. Come on, rise up within me. Let me know your truth. Oh Holy Spirit, saturate my soul, and let the life of God fill me now. Let your healing power bring life and make me whole, and let the peace of God let it reign. And let the life of God fill me now. Let your healing power bring life and make me whole, and let the peace of God let it reign.
Please enjoy this special ministry.
your mercy and strength be seen. You've called me to your purpose as angels understand. For your glory may you draw all men as your love and grace demands, and I will run to you, to your words of truth. It's not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of God. Yes, I will run the race till I see your face. Oh, let me live in the glory of your grace. You've called me to your purpose as angels understand. For your glory may you draw all men as your love and grace demands, and I will run to you, to your words of truth. It's not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of God. Yes, I will run the race till I see your face. Oh, let me live in the glory of your grace. Yes, I will run to you. Yes, I will, and I will run to you, to your words of truth. It's not by might, no, 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 not by power, but by the Spirit of God. Yes, I will run the race till I see your face. Oh, let me live in the glory. Please let me live in the glory. Yes, let me live in the glory of your grace. Oh, yes, let me live in the glory. Please let me live in the glory. Yes, let me live in the glory of your grace.
There's a word today with your name on it.
Hi. I would like to speak to you this morning for a short time on the subject of the valley. Now, all of us can identify with going through the valley at some point in time, and none of us like the valley. No one enjoys the valley experience. When we're speaking about the valley, we are speaking about going through a place, a time, a period when it seems like everything around you is adversity. But even David, a man after God's own heart, even David, he went through the valley. He knew about the valley. He said, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." David went through the valley, but God went through the valley with him. He went on to say, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies." David knew about adversity. He went through adversity. There were enemies all around him, but God prepared a table before him in the midst of the adversity, in the midst of his enemies. And I know when we are going through our valley experience, when we have adversity all around us, our thoughts, our prayers automatically go to, "I need to get out of the valley. Lord, take me out of the valley. Lord, take the adversity from around me." That's where our thoughts go. That's where our prayers go. But even David, a man after God's own heart, he went through. And I want to say to somebody today that we will go through the valley. We will go through adversity. But even as God went through the valley with David, even as God brought David to a place of peace and wealth in the midst of the adversity, in the midst of having the enemies around him, there is something about when we go through the valley. There's something about when we are faced with adversity that causes us to see the hand of God moving in a much mightier, in a sharper way than if we weren't there. There is something about when we are faced with these experiences that seems to just activate God to function in a totally different way. Now, His Word tells us that His strength, it is perfected, it is made perfect in weakness. And we're not necessarily talking about God becoming any stronger, because I think we all know that God's strength is fixed. So it's not that God is becoming stronger. However, it is like if you are outside on a cloudy day, then the sun's heat does not reach you the same way as if it was a day without clouds. But if the cloud shifts, you might hear someone say, "Wow, the sun just got hotter." Really and truly, the sun has not gotten any hotter because it has a fixed heat. But what happens is the conditions around you cause more or less of its heat from reaching you in a particular moment. And in much the same way, the conditions around you cause more of God's strength to reach you, to be released to you in that moment. When you are going through the valley and faced with situations that seem to say nothing can happen, nothing can work out for my good, there is something about about those particular conditions, about that particular circumstance that causes the strength of God to reach you sharper, stronger, in a much different way. And if you think about it, throughout the Word, like every mighty, miraculous move of God, when you check the circumstances that preceded the mighty, miraculous moves of God, it is always adversity. It is always a valley situation. Those are the times that God has historically moved the mightiest for His people. Now, I am reminded of the Exodus experience where God sent Moses to get His people out of Egypt, and that is one of the major times in the Word where we saw God moving mightily and doing miraculous things, just one after the next. But it was also one of the most adverse times that God's people faced in the Word. When Moses went and said, "Let my people go," the Pharaoh looked at him, his heart hardened, and he looked at Moses and said, "No, I will not let them go." But because of that stance, because of that adversity that Moses was met with, God was then able to show himself strong. And God brought plagues upon Egypt, which proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the God of Israel was greater than every other God. But that could not have happened without the adversity present. Even when Pharaoh released them, they came to a sea. And we know from further accounts in the Bible that it was within God's power to just snap and transport them from Egypt to wherever He needed them to be. But God allowed them to go that route. God allowed them to be faced with the adversity of a sea. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Pharaoh's heart hardened again and his army came after them. So now there is a sea in front of them and an army behind them. Talk about adversity. But even in that adversity, God did not just come and pull them out of it, but God took them through the sea. God moved mightily and parted the ocean. That is still to this day one of the greatest acts of God that is spoken of to this day. But that would not have happened. It would never have been possible without the adversity present. There is something about adversity, there's something about going through the valley that just activates God in a totally different way. Even when they got through the sea, they had to go through wilderness. They spent 40 years going through the wilderness, and the wilderness is kind of synonymous with the valley. It is a place of adversity. There is no sustenance in the wilderness. But God allowed them to go through the wilderness experience. He allowed them to go through it. But in the midst of all of the adverse conditions that go hand in hand with being in a wilderness, God sustained them in a place where sustainability is not possible. They had water, they had food every single day. And this happened once again because of the conditions they were in, the adverse conditions that they were in. Even when they exited the wilderness and God actually brought them to the promised land, it still wasn't a walk in the park. When they came to the promised land, there were already people in it. And not even normal people, but the people that were in the promised land when they got there. These people had fortified cities. They had trained armies. They even had giants. So once again, even when they came to that which was promised, there was still major adversity. But God God supernaturally moved in a mighty way and allowed them to win battles that logically, statistically, they should never have been able to win. But all of this happened because of the valley experience, because of the adversity around them. And I want to say to somebody this morning that you might be looking at the conditions around you. You might be looking at all of the adversity that is existing in this present time. Everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, you are probably seeing or hearing negative reports that seem to state that in this time we're in, nothing can happen. But I want to say to you, do not limit God in this time, because this is the right opportunity. This is the type of experience that God has historically moved most mightily in. So you might be on lockdown. You might not be able to do the things which you figure you need to be able to do in order to succeed, in order to sustain yourself. But do not think for a moment that God is in lockdown, because God is not in lockdown. God is not fazed by conditions of adversity. God is not fazed by the valley. He wasn't fazed back then, and He is not fazed now. So I want to encourage you this morning. Do not alter your stance. Do not alter your prayers. Do not alter the dreams that you have, because God's plans have not changed. God is not fazed by the adversity around you. Put your hope, put your trust in Him today and see what God will do. See what God will cause to happen for you even in this time that defies the adversity, because that is the condition that God most enjoys functioning in. Be encouraged this morning.
It was a pleasure having you join us today.
We encourage you to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Like, subscribe, and share.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Kingdom Encounter.
WTCN, revolutionizing the nations of the world.
Join us and be inspired every Sunday at 8 a.m. for our broadcast, Kingdom Encounter. Check out our thought-provoking devotional sessions with our pastor, the Reverend Ronaldston Wiggins, and our minister, Maria Herbert, in the informative series, Revelation for Life. Log on to our Facebook and YouTube accounts for our exciting Kingdom Corner Kids Show. You will be sure to find something inspiring for the whole family.